Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be back with you here on Points of Light Radio. And it's a pleasure in this particular segment to be revisiting an organization which I covered in the June 6th, 2022 segment of Points of Light Radio. And that organization is the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes. If you recall, in the June 6th segment of Points of Light Radio, I interviewed our old friend Owen Snowden. It was one of the many organizations that he belongs to over there. And I told you then that we would try to revisit the buffs, and we're doing that today, right? And my guests on this particular segment of Points of Light Radio are Gary Davis, who is the Grand Primo of the RAOB, as well as Nick Ashby, who is the Grand Secretary in Cyprus, okay? We're going to sunny Cyprus today. I tell you right now, I walked in my house today and yeah, I'm quite jealous actually of them being there in Cyprus. Now, I'm gonna briefly encapsulate with the insight here because I've covered this organization already. The Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes is one of the largest fraternal organizations in the United Kingdom. They were founded in August of 1822. Quite a history there, and quite an interesting story there. And as I said, the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes is also known as the Buffs by its members, or even a lot of people who aren't in the organization call them that. The Buffs have lodges in Britain, Northern Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the Middle East, India, Africa, Gibraltar, and Cyprus, which is where, like I said, these gentlemen are coming to you from today. Right? I love the order's motto. The Buffs' motto is "No man is at all times wise," and their maxim is justice, truth, and philanthropy. But that's enough from me. Let's have Mr. Ashby and Mr. Davis shed some light on this historic organization. But as always, I want to ask you, are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then just trim your lamp and follow me. Okay, Mr. Ashby, welcome to Points of Light Radio, and it's an honor to have you on, sir.
Thank you very much. An honor to be invited.
Yes. Now, you're a member of the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes in Cyprus.
That is correct, yes.
So why don't you tell my listeners and viewers about yourself, first of all, the offices you've held, things like that.
Yeah, okay. I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a few countries in my life, and I ended up coming to Cyprus about 12 years ago. Okay. And that was the first time I heard about the Buffs. A few friends in the community started talking about something called Buffs. And I said, well, what's that all about? And they said, well, we basically meet up, we have some fun, and we raise money for charity. That was the first I heard about the Buffs. So I thought, right, not for me at this stage, because I was working and had a career to think about, etc. and so on. But then I heard more good things in the community about the Buffs. So when I was asked to join 10 years ago, I thought I'll give it a go and see what it's all about. And I've been a member now for 10 years.
Oh, Looks like we got someone else jumping aboard here. Let's have a look. Hey, Mr. Davis, welcome to Points of Light Radio.
Thank you. Please call me Gary.
Okay, Gary, what's no, I just had heard Mr. Ashby's story about how he became into the Buffs. Why don't you tell my listeners and viewers about your how you became involved in the Buffs and how long you've been in it?
Well, I became involved due to the best way we recruit, and that's word of mouth. So friends, family, and I was pestered for an awful long time to join. And I finally decided to come along and join a meeting and be initiated. That was about 12 years ago.
Okay.
13 years ago.
You're both fairly recent to this, coming into it a little later in life and with a different appreciation of it, as I imagine, than a younger person would have.
Well, I know Nick's certainly a lot younger than me, but yeah, we have. He doesn't. I know he doesn't look it, but he is. I assure you. But yeah, and the brothers that introduced me to it were a lot older, and hence why there was some reticence in me joining, because I thought it would just be a bunch of old guys sitting around chewing the fat, and it didn't appeal to me at the time. But of course, once I became enlightened by joining, I realised it wasn't the case.
So while you said now you thought it was a bunch of old, or people say it's a bunch of old guys sitting around, what exactly do the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes do then? If that's
Nick, do you want to talk or shall I?
Well, I can take that one, Brother Gary. Basically, as I mentioned to you, Stan, before, my impression of the Buffs was you meet up once a week, you have a few laughs, maybe a couple of drinks, and you raise some money for charity. That was my impression when I joined. However, after joining, it soon became apparent to me that there's so much more to the Buffs. The Buffs, first of all, is a fraternal organization.
Mm-hmm.
And by fraternal organization, I mean we look after ourselves. So we have a number of brothers, and we all go through different stages in life, etc., and so on. And if any of the brothers do need some help, it could be physical help, need to move things, or there could be financial help, etc., and so on. We are there to assist each other to the extent of what we can do. So that is a main criteria of the Buffs. Okay, and that really appealed to me. As Brother Gary said, we do have a lot of members that have been in the order for a long, long time, and obviously health issues creep in. And the younger brothers, we can help out with what we can. That is a big, big thing for me. The other thing is, as I mentioned, the charity work that we do. We're not a charity organization, but we certainly have a lot of charities that we raise money for. Okay, so there could be smaller charities. We've helped one girl who had problems with her legs and needed, unfortunately, to amputate, and she needed to raise funds to go to America a few years ago. And we very quickly, as an organization, raised enough money to help this young girl to go and get the operation and the care in the US as she needed. So those are the two principles. And then also, we've got a lot of fun happening. We organize a lot of events. We've got events coming up. We've got one coming up tomorrow, for example. We're going to do a medieval banquet with 50 guests coming in. We've got summer balls, etc., and so on. So do a lot of socializing as well, not only the brethren, but we invite our partners as well. So those, for me, are the three criteria why I'm enjoying buffing so much. Don't know if you want to add anything, Gary, from your side?
No, it's very much agree with what you were saying there. And as I say, my eyes were opened once I joined to see the wider scope of what the Buffs are involved in. As far as brethren are concerned and the fraternal side of it, not only do we help them, but somewhere to go once a week, somewhere to make the friendships, which on an island like Cyprus could be quite difficult. The variation of ages. A lot of the brothers that are here are expats from UK, been servicemen in the past, served in the Army, Navy, Air Force on the island. And have come back and probably not with their families, generally as a couple, and then maybe then on their own. So a lot of that support is covered also by the weekly get-togethers we have, where they're able to enjoy ceremony and a book of rules that keep their life in order. It's quite good.
So you have weekly meetings?
Yes, the lodges can choose how often they meet. And we have a couple of lodges that meet on a weekly basis. We have a couple of lodges that meet fortnightly and some monthly. Some brothers belong to more than one lodge.
Wow.
If it's in a close, geographically close, they will belong to 3 lodges and maybe go 3 times in some weeks where the monthly one lines up. So quite a kind of deep involvement. It's
wow.
and that's the interest and that's the joy they get from the involvement. Very good.
Well, now you talked about the RAOB in Cyprus. How strong is it in Cyprus? The RAOB?
It's growing. We launched in December 2020. This is now the 3rd year as a banner, as a separate autonomous banner in the RAOB. We're in our 3rd year, but the brethren we have in the lodge have been involved with the Grand Lodge of England, which you have featured as the RAOB for 50 years. We have at least 3 members, maybe 4, who have actually been in the order for over 50 years, which is, and one of them's heading towards 60. That is a long time. Whilst Nick and I are very young to the order, it's been very, very well established. Now, Cyprus is saying its 3rd year, but we were looking to do something different. We didn't quite match to what was happening in the Grand Lodge of England. You got thousands and thousands of members there. You got members worldwide, but in Cyprus, we were running at around about the 80 to 100 mark. Okay. So if there was a Grand Lodge meeting where not all the buffs, but representatives from each lodge, each province get together and decide on how the order's going forward, we would have to travel to England to do this. We'd have to travel 4 times a year. The currency difference, we were obviously here in Cyprus working in euros. Everything had to be changed and converted and complicated matters. We were running different fees to they were because of the exchange rates. It all became a muddle. Also, we felt a little bit further away. So we decided as a province, as lodges of the Grand Lodge of England in Cyprus, to go our own way and form our own banner, which is what happened and was a very exciting period of time. Is what happened. We decided to do in December 2020.
Well, how did RAOB get to Cyprus? Was it carried there by the British expats, or was it?
Yeah, it certainly was, because of the historical links with Cyprus going back to Nelson with military on the island. Very much the case. Now we're 200 years old, so over that period of time, there's been a lot of buffs who've served out here in various different guises. And they just brought forward, all you need is what's called a certified primo. That's a brother who has passed examination to become an orchestrator, a main man in a lodge, can form a lodge in any place he wishes to, as long as he has a number of like-minded brethren who are prepared to do the same. And that's what happened. So you'd have an Air Force lodge, you'd have army lodges, you'd have lodges of expats, but mainly on the military basis. So yes, the history of Buffaloism in Cyprus is very much due to the military side. Oh, okay. They brought Buffaloism over, and it was the Grand Lodge of England that was promoting it.
So how many lodges, RAOB lodges, are there in Cyprus?
We have five at the moment. We have areas that are not covered, and we're looking to develop that as part of our plans going forward. But we have 5 lodges and we have 120 memberships.
Wow, okay. Now, gentlemen, what offices have you held in the Buffaloes?
Nick, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Obviously, when you join the Buffs, you go to what's called a minor lodge, okay? And that's where we have our weekly or bi-weekly meetings, etc., and so on. And there are a number of offices held in that minor lodge, 12 in total. So when you start as a kangaroo, and through that period, you go through almost all of those offices. There are some offices that are called will and pleasure, like secretary, treasurer, etc., and so on. But we all have to go through the various other offices, and so you learn the duties of that offices. So that's what we've done. Once you are going in front of what's called examining council to go up in the ranks, or in the degrees as we call them, then you have to prove that you can run the lodge. And after you've been approved and voted on, then you can run the lodge and be the primo for that lodge. So that's within the minor lodge that anyone can attend. What we did when we formed our Grand Lodge here in Cyprus, we also have what's called the Grand Lodge, with a number of officers that are voted into that Grand Lodge. And you need to be a primo or above to be a member of the Grand Lodge. I personally have been the Grand Waiter, I've been the Deputy Grand Primo, and this year I am the Grand Primo in the Grand Lodge of Cyprus.
Okay.
Very similar path for myself, Dan. But I was pushed towards the secretarial side of it. So I served the minor lodges. 3 of them I have at this moment in time been this, what they call the city secretary. This is the guy who will be doing all the paperwork, will ensure that the funds are correct, and does the administration of the whole lodge. Point of contact for most things. So very much an administrative, but a very important role in the lodge. Will be the member who will have the best grasp of the rules, would be the one that brothers would revert to for guidance and advice on buffaloism. So I steered a bit towards that. I have served in all the offices in the minor lodge, same as Nick. I was part of the provincial Grand Lodge as a Grand Lodge secretary, so I was looking at running the lodges together as a span break between Cyprus and the Grand Lodge of England, and then was part of the committee that drove the formation of the Grand Lodge of Cyprus. Since then, the formation, I've been the Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of Cyprus, which is the same job as you do in a lodge, just a bit bigger and a little bit more involved. So that's been my experience. I've served in the Knights chapter, which is just another lodge, excluding that number I mentioned. We have 2 Knights chapters, and as a president of that lodge, as a secretary, and as a treasurer. So I've covered most bases. And the one job that I probably will never manage to be is the Grand Primo. Because until I can find someone else who wants to be the Grand Secretary, I've got to stick with that, and I can't do both jobs. And unless you're offering, Nick.
Give it 2 years and I might be helping you.
There we go. So I can look forward to being the Grand Primo one day by the sound of that, Stan, and you've heard it here.
Yeah. Now, you did talk about the degrees. Now, I understand there's 4 degrees.
Yes.
Now, tell me about them.
The first degree, as Nick described, is we call it a kangaroo. I don't understand why we do, but maybe Nick knows. But that's the first degree. That's your degree of learning. Now, funny enough, we do have brothers. It's unlike other organisations such as the Masons, where you're expected to go through degree at a time and progress. It's purely your choice. Now, we have many first degree brothers who have no desire or ambition to go any further. They stay as a first degree brother. They are the bedrock. They are the bottom of the pyramid. However, they're the strongest part of the organisation, because they're the guys who will help you recruit. They're the guys that come back week in, week out. They're the guys that make the contributions to the funds. These are the kangaroos. These are the first degree. That's your launch pad. The second degree is your primo. In a lodge, it's a certified primo. And these are the guys who have read the rules, they've understood the rules, they've learnt the ceremonies, so they can undertake the ceremonies without the use of the rule book to read from. And they've understood the rules enough to go through an examination and test on the knowledge of the rules. This is done by what we call the examining council, who confirm that that brother has achieved the level that could run a lodge, that could administer rules, that can control the city secretary and make sure they follow the line to ensure they oversee finance. So they become the orchestrator of meetings, they become the boss. But they only do that on a monthly basis. We re-elect our primos monthly. This gives an opportunity for everybody to have a go. And of course, it gives us all in a variety. If you're meeting weekly, it gives you a variety of styles, a variety of ways the lodge is being run. So that makes it interesting, and I think it's a very good way of doing it. On to your third degree, this is what's known as the Knight Order of Merit. You need to have been a certified primo for at least 3 years. Then there's no further examination or test. By pure compliance to your registrations, i.e. that you have attended lodge and paid your dues for 40 weeks out of 52. You will be, if the lodge agrees and believe you've been a good contributor, that you've followed the rules and that you're a generally good brother, you will be elected by that lodge to become a Knight Order of Merit. That's the third degree. Now, Knight Order of Merit has its own lodge and it's called a Knights Chapter. So this is an additional lodge you would go to once a quarter. Like-minded, same level buffs are together there, and obviously just deal with slightly different matters, but generally it's a lodge meeting. Then on the fourth degree, you need to serve as 5 years as a Knight Order of Merit, again to remain in compliance, and therefore paid your dues and attended your sufficient amount of lodges. And that's not just in the Knights Chapter, that is in a minor lodge. Minor lodges are key. And you'll become a Roll of Honour member, which is your highest degree. It's called the fourth degree, and that is the pinnacle of your career in the buffs. By that time, you should be all knowing and be very experienced. Nick and I are both Roll of Honour, which we've achieved within 10 years of membership. Some brothers have spent much longer doing it, maybe due to breaks in their Buffalo career, maybe due to national service, maybe due to whatever. But generally, the shortest time you can do it is 10 to 12 years. So that's the degrees.
Well, how many members do your lodges have over there? How many members do you have in your lodge?
An average of 20, 25 a lodge. But if you're looking at full active members, James Mercury Lodge has maybe 50 members, but many of those have gone back to UK. So probably half of them have gone back to the United Kingdom or to whichever country they initiated from. Being expats, sometimes they move back. But they remain connected. They join lodges in other provinces and other areas in the UK, but they still remain members of the James Mercury Lodge. So they will still stay in contact. They will still receive copies of weekly minutes. They will still receive invites, and they will come over to Cyprus on holiday. So they're non-active members on the basis they don't turn up to lodge meetings because they're in a different country, but they can join by Zoom meeting, because we open up our meetings and 2 of the lodges for Zoom attendance, where they can take fully part, or by correspondence.
Okay, now, what is the makeup of your lodge? I always ask this, now old, young, but in the case of Cyprus, I'm aware of this Greek and Turkish split. So you talk about the expats. Do you have a mix of Greek and Turkish within these lodges?
No, as far as I'm aware, we definitely haven't got any Turkish. And I think that's due to the segregation we have on the island anyway. We haven't got a lodge in the northern section of the island.
Oh, okay.
So the diversity we have is we do have Cypriots or expat Cypriots who maybe were even born in the UK and have come back to Cyprus, or that have lived in both countries, or have just lived in Cyprus. So we do welcome Cypriots. They do need to swear allegiance to the King and Constitution to join, and previously the Queen, which they've done as a Commonwealth country. The diversity is we do have some Cypriots. And we have some Swedes as well, don't we, Nick?
Whoa.
Yeah. Born and bred in Sweden myself, and they were kind enough to let me in anyway.
You're working at getting a lodge on the northern side of that island, or no?
It's part of the plans that we will do when we do to expand it. And we are very young, Stan, and I think 3 years. An organisation that's 200 years old, with 200 years, our rule book has been produced, and over 200 years. Our 3 years is a very small period of time. We have big plans to expand it on Cyprus and to go into not only just the north, but we have no lodges in Nicosia, which is the capital of the island.
Wow.
We have an area now in Paphos, which is the largest probably number of expats, and maybe there's a lot of buffs over there. We need to expand into Paphos, which is a separate opposite side of the island where I live, for example. We have a lot of plans.
Now, how strong is fraternalism in general in Cyprus, do you find?
I believe it's better than it has been. Back to when Nick opened up about how he felt about the buffs. We have a misconception that we are a charity organisation, that we raise funds for charities. We are a fraternity, and I think we've lost sight of it probably over the years. We find it quite rewarding to raise money for young girls requiring operations, for orphanages, for various different things. But our main aim should be to look after the brothers of the lodges, to help and support them. I think now part of the brief of the new Grand Lodge of Cyprus is we are more fraternal. We are using more of the funds to ensure that the brothers that are close to us, we know more about them, and that we do support them more.
Yeah, the good work should always begin in-house.
Exactly. And I hope Nick will agree that in the 3 years we have been going, we've shown a lot more of that. We've shown more that we're open and that we should be fraternal. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort raising money for what we call our benevolence fund at Grand Lodge level. This benevolence fund is open for a lodge to apply to us at Grand Lodge for support and help for brothers. We're now, for the first time, maybe in that position to really give good help to brothers, and have done. Each minor lodge has its own benevolence fund, and our expectation is that they will work hard to keep that balance, that figure up, so they can help, then come to us if they need more help.
Now,
so
I was going to talk about the brotherhood. Do the buffs in Cyprus admit women, or do you have a women's auxiliary part of it, or no?
We haven't. I don't know if you've heard of the Glades.
Okay.
That is the women's organisation equivalent to the buffs, and that are aligned and affiliated to the RAOB. We have not yet. We're at the moment concentrating, and our rule book, it's a male fraternity. That's the fact. We've not had any women asked to join yet, but we do have a healthy support of the women of the buffs. Our buffesses, we call them, our wives, girlfriends, and friends attend our events. That's their involvement. They will help preparation. They will donate prizes. They will do jobs for us that we can't cope with ourselves, being male. They're very, very useful and very important part of Buffaloism. They just don't attend our meetings.
But we'll have to see if we can get those glades going in Cyprus. That'll be the next thing. Yes, that'd be awesome to see that. Now, what about the dress code at your meetings now? I see you're wearing a collar.
Yeah.
Is that your part, what you're supposed to wear at your meetings, or no? Or is it shirt and tie?
I can take that. Yeah, I can take it. Yeah. It is. As you can see, I'm wearing a polo shirt as well.
Yeah, okay.
And that is, we have to take into account the weather here in Cyprus.
Okay.
This time of the year is very, very hot. So when we meet at our minor lodges, we are smart casual.
Okay, yeah.
However, if we got ceremony, for example, a racing or a bigger meeting, we do do shirt and tie, etc., and so on, and being a bit more formal. So on occasions like that, where we really should make the brothers being raised, for example, show some what's the name, respect, etc., and so on, then we do put on shirt and tie, etc. But normal lodge meetings is smart casual.
No, but is the collar, is that part of a normal meeting, a collar or an apron?
Yeah. You mean the collarette?
Yeah, the collarette, yeah.
Yeah, this is a sign that I'm a Roll of Honor member. So this is, each degree has their own either jewel or collarette.
Okay.
And we do wear them at the meetings. That's correct.
Do you wear an apron or anything like that, like some lodges do, or no?
We do have aprons. We have the full regalia, as we call it, and that is usually worn during our Grand Lodge meetings, not during minor lodge meetings, unless there is a big ceremony in that minor lodge. But we do have full regalia, and that's used at our Grand Lodge meetings. We also have different collars that show the office in the minor lodge. So the Word Primo, for example, he will have a collar that says Word Primo, and the other officers will have a collar with their office for that month as well.
Okay.
They are very much like these.
Oh yeah, good. Brother Gary got one there. Their Grand Secretary.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that just gives them, and they will wear a jewel. The highest degree jewel they've been, and that's at minor lodge. They should be wearing the jewel that represents their current degree, their highest degree. And the reason is with that, when we undertake a section of our meeting which involves charges, for example, when we address each other, a charge will be brought against, for example, Brother Nick Ashby, who's serving as the city waiter and is a Roll of Honor member. Now, so the distinction there would be the fact he had his jewel on, so we could tell that he was a Roll of Honor member because it's a light blue ribbon and the shape bit. So, and he will be fined if he's not wearing his jewel. And if he's fined, those funds go into our benevolent fundraising monies.
So, what do you feel that the buffs have done for you personally?
For me personally, it's given me something to get my teeth into. I really have enjoyed throwing myself into it and getting involved into the rules, getting involved in helping to form the new banner, trying to drive change. I mentioned fraternity versus charity, and that's one of the things I've certainly picked up like a dog with a bone. Also the recruitment side of it. So it's given me a good direction. It's given me something to concentrate on. It's given me something to be involved in, and it's given me a lot of good friends, and what we call colleagues now, who I know that if I'm in need of help, they're there for me, and they know, hopefully, they believe that I'll be there for them. So that's what it's done for me.
Yeah, very much what Brother Gary said is his last point there. It's made me meet a lot of very, very good friends, and basically going back to it, it's a brotherhood, and I do generally feel that I've got good brothers around me in case I would need any assistance or I can give assistance. So that is the main thing that I've got out of the buffs in the 10 years.
And what do you think? What do you think it could do for those who are looking at joining? What do you think it could? For the people thinking of joining something like this, what do you think it could offer them?
The same experiences we've really mentioned here. Until you come inside the tent, you don't know really what it's all about. Unfortunately, they think we're a society full of secrets and that we have funny handshakes and prance around in ribbons with one of our trouser legs turned up. That's just not the case. It's more like, I would liken it more to going to a typical British social club. There's part of that. All there is there's some rules that help us to have fun. There's rules there that help us to raise funds. There's rules in there to ensure that we respect each other and bring decorum to various situations and circumstances. I just think it gives a bit of order to your life. The one thing I will definitely say is if you're a couple, you need to have the other partner very much involved as well, through different, whilst not coming to the meetings, involved in what you're doing, because you don't want them thinking you got secrets. You don't want them not understanding why you're going off once, twice a week, and why you spend the weekends with a bunch of guys. So it does bring everything together, and it will help the family life, and it will give you a social life as well. We look to try and bring social life to the Buffs to make it interesting.
It's true. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday for me, and I wish you and the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes all the best there in Cyprus. Have yourself a great day.
And thank you, Stan, for taking an interest and inviting us on.
Thank you very much, Stan. Thank you very much indeed.
Have yourself a great day. Thank you. That was Nick Ashby and Gary Davis, brothers and sisters. I find this rather interesting, listening to them shed light on this organization today. This is why, if you notice lately, I'm revisiting some of the organizations that I covered in earlier segments of Points of Light Radio, because I think that's important to see them from different perspectives. Now, here's the thing about the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes. You've heard them from a British perspective when Owen Snowden was on here, right? The mother country, shall we say, of the Buffs. Now you're hearing it from a Cyprus perspective, a place where during its expansion, it has grown to. Now, if I heard correctly, the Buffs only came to Cyprus in 2000. And in a little over 20 years, they've expanded, added new members, added new lodges, right? And more importantly, I think as a part of really a growing up of the organization, is that they formed their own Grand Lodge. I love that, right? This is an organization that is growing, right? I love, not only are they growing, but the Buffs in Cyprus are evolving. They have Zoom meetings, right? They actually have, like, some of their members are held via Zoom. I love that. Are allowed to join their meetings via Zoom. I love that. I think that's important. And I've always talked about, if you notice here on Points of Light Radio, not just preserving the history, but also talking about how are we going to move forward with fraternalism. Well, they're doing that. Members are allowed to join some of the meetings in some of their lodges via Zoom. That's important, right? And as I talked about, the RAOB spread to Cyprus through some of the expat community. That's something, I may have just found something for a future segment of Points of Light Radio, which is, the spread of fraternalism. How did it spread, right? That's important. And here we're actually seeing part of it right here. It's spread. Expats brought it. I do know, like, for instance, certain fraternities were brought to the Americas with service personnel and the people who immigrated here in the earlier days of North America. But this is interesting. This is a fairly recent expansion of a fraternal organization. The other thing I found rather interesting is that both these gentlemen joined a little later in life, right? So what we can see here is fraternalism is just not a young man's game or a young person's game. It's never too late to join and make your contribution to it and receive the benefits from it. This is wonderful, right? I think it's great that it's never too late. Right? These men are both thriving in it and just absolutely, loving the the fellowship and the ability to give back, you know, to the fraternity and to their communities as well. I think that's great. And I will be revisiting more and more and more of these organizations that I covered earlier. I think it's important to remind you that. But I think that's all I have for you today, brothers and sisters. But before I go, as usual, I want to remind you that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. And as I want to remind you that I welcome your comments and input. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel as well as my Points of Light Radio store. But brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you today. But until we meet again, just step into the light.